What's up, Internet? Oh, ooh, ooh, ooh. What's going on, Internet? Today is Monday, September 23rd, and it has been a minute. When was the last time I did one of these? It's probably been a month. Let's see, August 27th. So it's been almost a month since I've done one of these, and that hurts my feelings because my goal was to be very consistent with these, and I was for a little bit, and then life happens. And so it's been a little while. I started working with a new client that's taken up a lot of my time. Also, the last one I did, the last episode of this I did was we're all developers now. And I've kind of just fallen in love with a whole new skill set, which is like writing code and building things and doing things that I have wanted to do for such a long time. If you know anything about me, I've been tinkering with the web since like 2011, 2012, probably 2012. And always restricted by my lack of an ability to write code. And I dabbled with WordPress for a long time, which is crazy. I don't want to really get into that. There's a ton of drama in the WordPress world right now. I'm not going to talk about that. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, but that kind of opened my door to the web, to building things on the web, and mostly limited to working with like themes and theme builders and like plugins and things that allowed me to take ideas and mostly writing and put them on the web. But I was still limited from a design scope. And then in 2017, I found Webflow, and Webflow allowed me to take not just the content that I wanted to put on the web, but the designs and the aesthetics and what I saw in my head, because I also have a design background. And so I was able to then design and build these things on the web. So not only was I able to put my content on the web, I was able to style it and make it look exactly how I wanted. And that was such a freeing experience. And here we are in 2024, and these tools are now allowing me to add the functionality that I want and make the software do the things that I want. And it's just this crazy progression as somebody who, it's not fair to call myself non-technical because I'm incredibly technical, but I'm not a developer. And I've had this amazing arc over the years with this software and these tools, and now being able to build. Like, I published my first application to the Chrome store on my own just recently, a handful of days ago, maybe like 7, 8, 9, 10 days ago, something like that. I published a browser extension that allows you to download audio from Twitter. And it doesn't seem like a big deal. You could just go in and find the MP3 file, but you can't go in and find the MP3 file on Twitter. The way they chop up the audio is they break it up into these little playlists and these like 3-second chunks. And then those all have to kind of be compiled. And, there's a process to go in and like get that audio. And now it supports video. You can also download video inside of Twitter Spaces. And it's just a cool thing. And it's actually like weird to think about because I've also been building this tool called Atmos for the last, we published that into the Chrome store on my birthday, May of 2023. So it's been, what is that, a year and almost a half now. And there's about 100 users on that platform. Granted, it's a lot more complicated than that, but this Chrome extension that I published last week already has like 270 plus users on it. It's picking up 15 to 20 new users a day, just randomly. Like, I haven't promoted it. I barely told anybody about it. I made a post on Twitter about it, but like, I haven't done any marketing about it, and people are just finding it. And that's fucking crazy to me. Like, it's super cool that there's almost 300 people out there that are using this extension that I built. Well, the AI built, but at my direction. And we're just living in wild times, and there's so much going on in the technical world, right? Like, there's so much happening. I don't even know where to go in this conversation after just talking about all that, because it seems like there's so much happening just in the world of AI, but also in the world of politics and the world of geopolitics. And like, I saw this video today of what's the guy's name? Let's pull this thing up here. I think it's something Shapiro. Let's go screen share. Where is it? Notifications. That's what I want. This guy, Governor Josh Shapiro, signing a missile. I mean, imagine signing a freaking missile right? Imagine signing a missile like you're autographing a football for a fan or a CD or an album cover. You know, sincerely, American War Machine, best regards, warm regards, hope this catches you well. Like, what the hell are we doing that this is a photo op right now that a governor of a state would find it appropriate to like autograph a fucking missile? And you know, the war drums are beating all around. I don't really want to get too deep into politics on this episode. That's not the point here. But just everything around us is changing. As I sit here, there's another hurricane approaching Florida. Just a month ago, we had a big storm come in, Debbie, and like devastated the area around us. There was a lot of flood damage around us. And so people are kind of freaking out about, you know, the storms coming and all this chaos. And just, I can feel the anxiety in the air. I was talking to somebody at dinner today, and I can just feel the anxiety of people, you know, that they're just on the edge trying to figure out what's going on. The economy's, you know, and it seems to be split, right? It's like some people are thriving and other people are struggling. Inflation's gone crazy. Again, I don't know where this is. I don't know where I'm headed with any of this other than to say like change is in the air. You know, all around us, things are changing, and it's wild to be thinking about like the power that we're getting. It's like this double-edged sword. And I know I've talked about this if you watch any of my videos before, like it's this double-edged sword that it's this brand new technology. And this technology is kind of coming full force. I think you see the established powers trying to figure out how to deal with this technology. And sometimes that means dealing with like independent journalists figuring out how to get their message out when the media used to be controlled by, you know, 3 or 4 state propagandist machine. You used to have ABC, CBS, NBC, you know, maybe Fox snuck into that picture a little bit. But now you have hundreds, if not thousands of, you know, maybe hundreds of thousands of people that are creating media. You know, you have thousands of like legitimate high level media operations. And then if you take blogging and YouTubers and influencers into the picture, you know, you've got like millions of people that are just creating content, sharing information, doing things like I'm doing right now. And, you know, maybe what, 30 people are going to watch this, 50 people are going to watch this, 100 people are going to watch this. Like, what's the big deal? You know, it's kind of crazy, but everyone is out here kind of telling stories in real time. I joke about like history used to be written by the winners, and now we're writing history in real time, like changing the definition of words. We're changing the narrative in real time. You know, like we don't even have a president right now as the United States. Like Joe Biden is fucking checked out. You know, if you've seen any of the videos recently of him on stage, not remembering who he's supposed to introduce. Recently, we saw Joe Biden sitting at the head of the table. I don't know if she has power of attorney now, or I don't know what's going on. You know, they just removed Joe Biden, inserted Kamala Harris, and here we are protecting democracy. And then you have like the war machine. You have Dick Cheney endorsing Kamala. You have the IRS who recently endorsed Kamala. You have all these people that are like establishment folks that, again, the Democratic Party used to rail against, and now they're accepting their endorsements with arms wide open. With arms wide open. And it's like, what is actually going on? Like, what is the narrative? It's no longer, in my mind, about left or right, Democrat or Republican, liberal versus conservative. It's about big state, big government, big tech versus the little guys, versus independent media, versus small software startups, versus, you know, just the average common folk. And I think we're still lost because this paradigm has shifted, but most people are not thinking about it through that lens. They see all these changes, they see all this stuff happening, and they still think it's the left versus the right. They think it's Democrats versus Republicans. And that's just not the picture. It's, you know, again, the folks who would use the government to control you or to influence business, or, you know, these big private equity firms who are scooping up all of the real estate and buying all of these companies and extorting the brands and just scraping as much profit as they can out of these systems. I talk about the extraction economy that I think is flourishing all around us, where it no longer matters the value you deliver to your end user. It matters how much value you can extract from the end user. And again, I think these tools, these AIs, these systems that we're building are going to accelerate that. They're only going to accelerate this. And so, again, I've already spent too much time talking about political stuff than I wanted to. I just think it's incumbent on us, to figure out new ways to connect. If you saw the episode before, my most recent one that we're all developers now, it was about local first software. And it was about how local first software is not just a software problem, it's a people problem. And it's about building tools and building technology that empowers us as individuals to connect and to build meaningful relationships and to maintain some of the value we create in these networks for ourselves, rather than allowing some centralized organization to extract all that value and take it for themselves, right? Like, we need to keep that lower and lower and in the value chain. And I don't know, I guess that's what I'm all about. This company that I'm working for seems to be an interesting player in that space. I hope to share more about that with you. Follow me on Twitter and join like some of the Twitter spaces that we're having to talk about that if you're interested in learning more about that. If you're here in Sarasota, get involved with the Sarasota Tech meetup. We're having a big Sarasota Tech Summit in November. So November 14th here in Sarasota, we're going to have this fantastic tech summit. We just locked in the Art Ovation Hotel, which is a beautiful hotel here downtown Sarasota. We've got their entire conference space blocked out. We're reaching out to some of the top tech names in the region, people who have sold businesses for big dollars, people who have done really successful things in the tech industry that live here locally that kind of nobody knows about. And we're going to invite, hundreds of you. I think we're going to try to sell 200 tickets. We'll see where we go. But it's exciting to see this stuff happening. And I think it's about connecting on a local scale. For the first phase of the internet, it's been about how big can you get? How global can you be? How broad an audience can you get? Now I think it's about how much of an impact can you have locally? How much of a meaningful network can you build, a real world network? To change gears a little bit, Balaji just did this thing about the network state. And I've been thinking about this network state, and the idea of a network state is like a digital sovereign entity, a network state, like America is the United States, right? It's a nation state. It's it's a sovereign piece of land, and it's separate from Mexico and Canada and Europe and South America, like all these different places, right? It's its own entity. It's a state. It's a United States. It's a federation of states. And the idea of a network state is the idea of like a digital sovereign state. And I just don't think you can have a digital sovereign state because you don't have land to defend. And if you don't have land to defend, then you can't have a place where people are free, because those people are always going to be beholden to the folks who own the land and the folks who govern the land and the folks who can enforce violence. And I don't know if I can get into it too deep on this episode, but the ability to organize violence is essentially the main structure for how society is organized. If I can organize more violence than you, then I can come take your shit. And if you can't stop me, then you can't stop me. And for almost all of humanity, them were the rules. And in our enlightened age, we have given a monopoly of violence to the government, to the police, to the government, let's say at scale, to enforce a set of laws that we all live under. And the idea behind that is that we all live under the same set of rules, and so that enforces a little bit of stability across society. But what we're seeing now is the perversion of those rules, where they only seem to apply to certain segments of the population. If you believe the right political philosophy, then you're safe. If you don't believe the right philosophy, if you're on the fringes of that, well, then maybe we'll exert violence upon you. And that violence doesn't necessarily have to be physical violence. It could be financial violence. It could be social violence. It could be lots of different types of violence now that we have in a digital age that we've never had before. And so we forget, because we live in this society and we were born in this society, and we think this is the natural state of the world, where you look outside and you see the world as civilized and you just assume that's how things are. But that's not how things are. And it's important to understand that in order to maintain those things and to keep those things, you have to learn how to connect on a local level. You have to learn that things don't necessarily matter on the global scale, on the national scale, as much as they matter on your local scale, and have to find ways to get involved with communities. Like, there's this loneliness economy that's kind of percolating all around us, where people are just desperate to build real world connections. Like, I spend so much time in front of these screens that I long to get out. And so on most days, after work, I have to go and get out of the house a little bit. I have to, like before the day even, I go to the gym, I go to work out, I go to grab dinner with friends, or, I do some other social activity, or again, we host these meetups so that we can get other like-minded folks into a room and be able to talk and have camaraderie and whatever. And a lot of that stuff used to come from church and from social activities and from your community. But most of us don't know our community anymore, right? Most of our communities live inside of here now. Maybe you have a few friends, maybe you have some family, but a lot of people have moved away from their family. They live miles away from their family, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of miles away from their family. Maybe they know their neighbors, maybe they don't. Maybe they know a neighbor or two, but they don't know everyone around them. They don't, there's no real cohesive bonds. And so this becomes very easy for folks to disrupt that system, right? For some external entity to come and create chaos inside of that system. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is these are trying times. And even going back to the hurricane, the way you survive stuff like that is by having a strong network in your community that if your house gets destroyed, well, I'll help you. You come to my house. And if my house gets destroyed, maybe I'll have people that will take me in or help me dig out or fix whatever's broken. And that's how things need to work, right? We can't get so trapped in this digital age that we find ourselves in a position that we cannot defend our community, whether that's digital, whether that's sovereign, whether that's local, whatever it is. We have to be, connected in a way that allows us to protect each other and look out for one another and find ways to lift each other up, not tear each other down. And it seems so much about how these algorithms and these digital algorithms work and these digital systems work. It's about outrage. It's about fear. You look at the media and it's fear. I'm looking at this storm come in and it's it's going to be the worst, the biggest, the most dangerous. Prepare, buy the things. It's they just, if it bleeds, it leads. Fear drives action. I saw a report. I didn't even think I'd talk about this, but there's a report recently about the number of negative words that you include in your headlines increases the amount of the percentage that people will click through to your article. And vice versa, the number of positive words will decrease the amount of click-throughs to your article. And so it's no wonder that what you see all around you in the media, in the press, online, in these social algorithms is bombarded by these negative messages, because that's what moves the needle. And these systems are designed to keep you inside of them so that they can sell you more shit. So I've gone totally off the rails here. I hadn't intended on talking about any of this, but it's so hard to do anything right now in the digital world, to see these systems, to see AI, to see all these tools evolving and not think about how malevolent actors are thinking about using them, right? You just saw in California, Gavin Newsom said, hey, no, we're passing AI where you can't have AI parodies. The First Amendment is under attack all over the United States. You see Brazil shut down X on Twitter. Twitter X, they shut it down in Brazil. In the UK, you've seen recently they've been arresting folks for stuff they post online. Even here in the United States, you've seen videos of federal agents coming up to people for posts they made online. And we're just getting to a place where it's more important than ever to not be wrapped up in all this bullshit and to have a strong network locally, right? That you can connect with, that you can trust, that you can talk to, that's not beholden to these digital infrastructure, to our digital overlords. I've talked about a digital feudal state before in other podcasts. And, the idea of a digital feudal state is that, for a long time, for most of human history, we lived in some kind of feudal state where essentially the peasants had nothing, right? Everything was owned by the royalty, by the people in charge, by the kings, by whatever it was. And you could farm the land and you could live in the land, but you could only keep just enough to survive. Everything else went to the top. Everything else went to the royalty. And these feudal systems basically it made it very difficult for anyone to elevate their standing in life. If you were a peasant, if your parent was a peasant, you were likely going to be a peasant, right? And it just on and on for generations. And if you were royalty, you were going to stay royalty just because of virtue of your blood, because your blood was better or more pure than other people. And in a digital world, we're now building these digital feudal systems where Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, Google, they are the new royalty. They own everything, right? All of these places we interact online, all of these tools that we tinker with are owned by someone else, and they extract all of the value from our labor, from our time, from the effort that we spend inside of these systems. And so we're building this digital feudal system where, again, it's creating a caste system where you will forever be a peasant. You will forever be a user of this software, versus an owner of something, of extracting value of the system, because it's all being consolidated by Microsoft, or it's all being consolidated at OpenAI or by Google, or, again, whoever the system is. They're all operating the same way. And so this is why I get so excited about what's happening in the local first space. This is why I get excited about open source software. This is why I get excited about a lot of the stuff that I see, because I see just both sides of the same coin. And so I don't mean to, just be super negative about any of this stuff. I'm actually incredibly excited about all of it. But I see the potential on both sides for this thing to be like the most amazing tool we've ever seen, or one of the most destructive forces society has ever encountered. And I think if you look back at the early days of the internet, that's how the internet started. The internet started as this utopian vision to connect everyone, and everyone would have all the information, and we would lead to abundance and a post-scarcity economy, and everyone would have access to all the information, and so you wouldn't be lied to, and you would always, everyone would know the truth. And we're so far from that. It's become the complete opposite of that. And so what does this next layer evolve to? And again, the only way we fix that is by finding ways to connect and trust each other, and to trust these systems, and to know that these systems are not extracting the value from us, that we're working in a symbiotic relationship to provide value through these systems, and that's how they earn income. They're no longer spying on you to advertise to you, to manipulate your behavior, to extract the value from the network. They're there to provide a service, which is to create the connections between us. And that, I think, is a paradigm shift that I also see happening in smaller scales across the web that I'm looking to figure out a way to amplify. In my own personal life, in my business life, in the things that I do on a general basis, these are the things I seek to amplify. Community, connections, real meaningful value exchanges through digital channels. And I think this is the technology that we have to find a way to elevate, not this predatory corporate spyware bullshit that's kind of predominated the entire business ecosystem, and that is like the running pervasive model across all of Silicon Valley. And anyway, I'll leave it at that. I just get excited that I can now play in this sandbox, even though I'm using big tools and I'm using models that are, empowered by some of these same companies that I literally just excoriated. I'm getting to build things on my own that could lead to other things, that could lead to, again, folks like me building tools that are completely detached from Silicon Valley. For the longest time, the tools have all come from the royalty, the digital royalty. And now the digital peasants, a la yours truly, are finding ways to be able to build and elevate their standing by creating tools themselves and by building things themselves. The next step in this evolution is to allow those folks to earn and to build and to keep the things that they build digitally, and bring others with them, and build community around those things, and build ecosystems around those things that can trade freely, and again, exchange value, and follow a lot of the same things that made the West amazing, while also opening doors to the entire global sphere. Anybody with an internet connection and a decent CPU should be able to do some of these things. And I don't know, I'm way off track now, but that gets me excited. All of this gets me excited. And I wanted to not go another week without doing an episode. I'll be in New York all next week with this team that I'm working with, and that's exciting for me. Again, it's sucking up a lot of my time, but I couldn't be happier doing some of these things. And yeah, anyway, thanks for listening to this ramble. If you've been listening, I hope you got some value out of this. Leave me a thought in the comments. Yeah, share a message with me. I don't know if you're interested, if you're building stuff, if you're doing interesting things on the web. Let me know what you're building, what you're up to, who you're connecting with. Start a meetup. Do yourself a favor and find a way to start some kind of meetup. It doesn't have to be tech related, but just start connecting with folks in the real world, and start building your own network, and start figuring out how to kind of, build defenses against some of this stuff, so that you don't have to be the one that's stressing out when a storm comes. that you can be the one that provides shelter for others when storms come, because that's a real position of power. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thanks for hanging with me. Catch you on the next one.